We're the Young Indie Chroniclers podcast, and we're producing a new feature-length documentary, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age.
George Lucas was going to do this Lawrence of Arabia scale epic on a 16-millimeter budget.
You got a chance to have the same adventure making the show as what Indy was doing.
His stuff is really quite political.
You didn't think I was going to run, did you?
I learned that when George says he wants to ultimately change or fix something, that he was going to do it.
We built a Kickstarter campaign to support the film. Late pledges are available now at Kickstarter.com.
Hello there. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. This is your host, Anthony King, and each week I will be joined by fans, creators, and believers in the principles from the galaxy far, far away to discuss the thematical elements from our favorite Lucasfilm properties. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. As always, this is your host, Anthony King, and thank you for joining me on this cozy deep dive into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. We have a wonderful episode for you all planned today. This is our Maul Shadow Lord finale, episodes 9 and 10 of Season 1 episode discussion. And we have an incredible guest on the show. Colby Mead from the ColbyCast comes in and we chat about all things in a spoiler manner. So if you really haven't checked out the show yet or any of it, I mean, this is the time now to go watch it. It's incredible. It's great. You will have a wonderful time. And then come back and listen to our episode where we really get into the nitty-gritty of everything here. And I'm excited for you all to hear it. So just be on the lookout for that on the other side of this segment here, which is our Cloud City Gossip. I do want to note also that there was a little hiccup in my recording planning, or I wouldn't say planning, but the actual process of recording. So Colby sounds fine, but you'll notice that my mic kind of switches at some point, and I did my best to do all the behind the scenes tools that I can do to update the quality of it. So my voice may sound a little different for most of the main part of the episode, but rest assured the content is still there, and I apologize for that. There was a little hiccup in Zencaster's recording, the platform that I use, and caused that to happen there. But fortunately, the recording was saved. That's a whole other diatribe from days past, and we were able to make sure that everything got set up together there appropriately, and I'm glad that we were able to preserve the story so that everyone can hear it, because it's a wonderful episode, and I really think that you're going to like it a lot. So get ready for that. But some news. All right, so we covered Maul Shadow Lord is over. Season 1 is concluded, so get ready. Season 2 is going to be coming maybe next year, hopefully next year at some point. Be on the lookout for that. And we're also 2 weeks away from The Mandalorian and Grogu, so get your tickets. Go to your McDonald's, get all the fun stuff. Go to your Walmart, Target, whatever place you can get action figures at, and support this movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'll be there on Thursday. I'll see it 3 times on Thursday. What? That's awesome. And 4 times that entire weekend. I'll be Mandalorian Grogu'd out. But that's the hope. That's the hope, is that I'll be Mandalorian Grogu'd out. And then finally, we got tickets for Star Wars Celebration. First off, Star Wars Celebration tickets came out this week and sold out. I bet many of you listeners were like me and had quite an experience trying to get tickets for that thing. So yes, we did manage to get 4 single-day passes. So we will be boots on the ground for Star Wars Celebration. We'd love to see any of our fans, supporters, followers there. So I'll be generally wearing Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. So if you see me, say hello. I'll have a business card that I can give to you. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll have something or not. But that is we'll be there. We'll be not in Anaheim, in Los Angeles. And we will, I got my hotel booked already. Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations will be in the area too. She won't be at the convention, but she'll be she'll be with me there, and we'll be there for the entire week. So we're definitely hitting up Lucasfilm Museum, not the Lucasfilm Museum, but the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. I'm going to hit up the Academy Museum. Definitely going to go down Hollywood Boulevard and see some of those sites in downtown LA that I never get to see when we're typically down on the other side in Orange County and Anaheim. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to have fun. And my heart hurts for the people that weren't able to get tickets, or at least the amount of tickets that they wanted to. It's certainly a luck of the draw situation, and 70,000 tickets sold out pretty fast for this thing. So maybe there'll be a resale thing, or more tickets will pop up closer to the event. I don't know. And my heart hurts for the people trying to get affordable hotels too, because LA is not the cheapest, especially the ones closest by to the convention center. So it's an interesting situation for sure. But anywho, that is all the news that I have for this week. Let's get into our main topic discussion with Colby about Maul, Shadow Lord, episodes 9 and 10. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Forest Coast Conversations. It is a pleasure to have been here each and every week with you as we've dissected Maul, Shadow Lord, and we finally approached the finale? No, just the season 1 finale here. We have the pleasure of getting a season 2 announcement before the show even started, and guess what? We just got the finale this past week of Maul, Shadow Lord, and to break down all of it in a spoiler manner. So if you haven't seen the episodes yet, oh my gosh, you better go pause this episode now, go watch your Disney Plus, come right back to this moment in time so that you can not get spoiled to anything that we're going to talk about today, because trust me, it's a big one. It's a big deal. And speaking of big deals, we've got a wonderful guest back on the show. We have our friend Colby Mead from the ColbyCast. Welcome back, Colby, and how you doing?
Anthony, I'm so pleased to be here. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this show, especially because it's been just such a, I don't want to say an unexpected surprise, because the minute I heard of it, I didn't expect it to be anything but good, and it has definitely ticked all the boxes that I wanted it to tick. But when you said big deal, I thought we were going to be talking about Force Awakens for a second, because FN 2187 and is a big deal, right, with the Resistance.
That's a different podcast. That's when when Finn inevitably gets his own animated show years down the line, or maybe even live action show, because hey, John Boyega still can do it.
Love that character.
Let's
bring it on.
Bring it on, indeed. Well, we're here to talk about Maul, Shadow Lord, and that's where I want to start our conversation, Colby, because we haven't had you on the previous 4 weeks here to chat about it. We've had other guests on, of course, but I want to know about how you're feeling about the show now that we have the full story, and you can talk full spoilers about everything with the full context of everything. So how do you feel about it now?
I enjoying every minute of it. And look, I've gone on record many times in many places saying that I just love Star Wars. It is definitely my happy place.
Yeah.
I'm a fan first. I don't hang my hat on being a critic. Most of the time I just enjoy the ride. And very few properties have I come across, or stories in this galaxy, that I haven't enjoyed immensely. Those are my standards. Easily pleased. But when I first heard about this show and the announcement, was it at Celebration Japan, I believe?
Yes, last April. So about a little less than a little over a year ago at this point.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, okay. Didn't see that coming, right? But then the first two things on the heels of that thought was, yes, more Maul, please, because it's always entertaining when he's around. And secondly, I love Star Wars animation, and it is always just one of my favorites. So I was happy to see that they were going to be. This is sort of a spiritual sequel to the Clone Wars, right? As like Bad Batch was as well. So
and a concurrent sequel to Bad Batch, I guess, too.
I mean, yeah, right, exactly. I'll take it. And so those sort of were my expectations. I can't say that I had super high or super low. I was just happy that we were going to be getting stories. And every week when I sat down to watch them, I was just pleasantly surprised, and for reasons I'm sure we'll get into. But, number one was the animation, the way that they have just sort of the theme, the tone, and the animation really is where it has really been very enjoyable for me, because it's very much reminiscent to the animation that we see in the Clone Wars, but it's different, right? So it's got its subtle tweaks and improvements, and it sort of has grown up with the audience that started watching the Clone Wars, and it has matured with them. And I think that I'm super happy for them. It's not me, but it's my sons, and they're in their 20s.
What are you talking
So I'm
about,
happy.
Colby?
Yeah.
We're still growing up every day.
I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, I've just I've enjoyed things that I didn't expect to enjoy, like Devon. Devon is a great character. I'm invested. I've really grown to enjoy seeing what's going to happen with Riley. I think Lawson is a great addition to the Star Wars canon. Yeah. So, and then all the other familiar faces that we are used to seeing, or in other properties, were just super well used here. So,
yeah, agreed. I like what you said there about tone, theme, and animation. Right. I'll start with the animation there just to echo what you're saying there, because this was like a portrait painting in many ways. Like you could almost see the brush strokes. And I know it's done on a computer, but the way that they animated it to make it seem like it was hand drawn at various points was quite a treat, I will say. And it looked like some matte paintings too could have been utilized in some capacity for this as well. So kudos to the, of course, the ever wonderful animation team over there at Lucasfilm, and may you continue to have jobs and keep the lights on over there, as hopefully beyond this and many seasons more and other shows too down the pipeline, there's things there. Tone, I think, has been one of the most surprising aspects of this show for me, I will say. Just because it's been dark, but I think the pace too has also been very slow, unlike other Star Wars properties, especially in the animated space, right? Rebels was so different. Clone Wars obviously was like a 3-episode arc mini movie per, you got about 7 movies per season on that front. And then Bad Batch, of course, was its own different thing. But this was a full drawn out 10-episode, really, really beautifully told tale that fit the tone, the animated style, of course. And then, just brought it all home with this climactic episodes here that we had today. And then thematically, I want to add on top of this, because like my biggest trepidation coming into the series, and listeners, you know this by this point, is that I've been afraid of what people may take this away from this show, right? And especially when you feature a dark side character, or character that's like very much in that mentality of thinking, right? We live in already a very dark world, and people take the wrong lessons away from Vader so many times, and Palpatine too, and Kylo Ren, right? And instead of seeing them for what, like, the dark side, like what George is trying to convey about the dark side, they just see the power and the brutality and the quote unquote badassery of them and think it's awesome, right? And I thought, well, I hope the show doesn't glorify any of that, because that was my concern, is that it may do that and people may get the wrong implication of what it actually means to be involved with dark side mentalities. And I think that it's particularly in these 2 episodes that we'll talk about today that counteracted all of that. And if you're looking for it in the appropriate manner, I'm sure there will be people that still miss the point. But if you're looking for it and want to engage with it, you will recognize very clearly that they're making a strong thematical point that the dark side is really bad, and it doesn't leave any good qualities in any person. And I'm happy to dive into that at the appropriate time later in this episode, but that's a tease for you there, folks. Get ready for that one. And then lastly, too, I will just say, especially at the beginning of this series, I was concerned that there would be too many Maul like hallway sequences. Like he wouldn't have a valid opponent. We knew the Inquisitors were coming in there. We didn't know when. We didn't know if that would be like the finale sequence. It's like, okay, the Inquisitors come in and he's just been mopping up people that are just shooting blasters at him and he's just mowing them down. I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but how many times can you do that until it just becomes stale? And it just, the supply and demand really goes in a different, like you meet that demand and then, oh boy, you've had too many cookies now and they all start tasting bad. And then like, okay, how many cookies of Maul taking out a whole hallway's worth of people can you have until it just becomes, all right, you did another one. And fortunately, the show combated that pretty hard.
Yeah, bravo. I mean, so well said. Really, just I really appreciate what you're saying about the redundancy of lightsaber fights, right? Lightsaber fights in Star Wars always have to mean something. They've always had a thematic weight to them. It's not just let's have some cool choreography, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool choreography, but they've always carried something else story-wise with them. And we had a lot of lightsaber fights in this show, not just the show, but especially in these last 2 episodes. But I don't feel like it was overkill. I felt like, I mean, every swing of the saber meant something. And there are lots of swings of sabers, but I really felt like there was something to be said about every single one of them. It was just very well done in every aspect of it.
So many indeed. And I want to dive into the cliffhanger for this week here, which was about the inclusion of Crimson Dawn. Yes, from Solo, A Star Wars Story. They're finally back. And, you know, I'm curious because we finally get Dryden Voss in this. He's not voiced by Paul Bettany, which kind of was a second I had to get used to everything here. And like, okay, he's back in this now. What did you think of his overall plan and his inclusion of Maul in this matter?
First, I'll say that anytime any Star Wars storytelling can include characters or storylines from Solo, I'm happy. It makes me happy because I'm a fan of that movie. I think it's just a fun, very well done pocket story about a character that we've all loved for a long time. Alden Ehrenreich did a magnificent job. It introduced angles and characters and things that I think are just that enrich the tapestry of Star Wars. So anytime some other property comes along and references that, makes me happy. So we get that, right? We got it also a little bit of a flash there in the last season of the Clone Wars when we see Maul talking to Dryden Voss. So again, it makes sense. Story wise, this makes sense. These are two people who are in each other's orbits, and I'm glad that this was an avenue that they took. As far as the plan he's proposing, for me, makes a lot of sense for that angle, right? Because we know where he's going to end up because we've all seen Solo. We also know that Maul, again, is working behind the scenes in ways in that world, right? But he ends up becoming the top dog, Dryden Voss does. He has to get there somehow, and now we get to see sort of the beginnings of that. I don't know how it's going to play out detail by detail, but that's the plan, right? He's going to go in, he's going to offer this assistance to Maul because he knows he's stuck. He can't do it himself, but you've got to do what you've got to do for me. I'm going to get something out of it too. And it makes sense because now he's going to be, looking to move ahead. So I'm excited and hopeful that we get to explore a little bit more of that in future seasons or next season at least, because that's what we have guaranteed, right?
Seemingly it's going to be the next one, right? And I'm curious about, like, I think I always assumed that Maul just was Crimson Dawn. Like, I mean, he's red, right? Crimson. Yeah. Like, it just makes sense that, like, if he were to create an underground organization, that he would have created Crimson Dawn. And then I thought maybe just Voss was just like, especially when we saw him in Clone Wars Season 7, that he would have just was like, oh, another underworld character that then he brought in to be his, like, lieutenant that could be out and about and on his yacht and doing cool stuff. Did you have any thoughts about that as you're watching through this as well?
There's so much Star Wars, right? And we love it and we watch it.
Yeah.
And I wish I could recall things, just like access that file in my brain, double click and bring it all down to my mouth and have it come out, or even reference it as I'm watching. But I caught myself asking myself the same thing there. Anthony was like, hold on a second. How are I need to go back and watch. I need to watch the Mandalorian arc of Clone Wars with Darth Maul, because wait a minute, how was he involved with the criminal underworld there again? Trying to dust all that off, because it's been a long time since I've watched and seen that. I don't do a perpetual rewatch, of these things. So I too was wondering. Hold on a second, how are these two connected? Who is like the ranking member here? But then as I was watching, I sort of I remembered, okay, wait, Dryden Voss was really, at least in Solo, he was the big guy, right? In those circles. And the Maul reveal wasn't that, it was exactly that, was a reveal late in the movie. So how those machinations worked together, I don't know. But yeah, I caught myself wondering the same thing. Who's each other's boss here? Wait a minute, because Maul was the top guy a ways back, and I honestly could not remember why he was no longer the top guy again.
Yeah, I mean, good question there on all that front. And I have to imagine that he'll make pretty quick work of whoever is the guy that Voss is. I can't even remember. He was like Rinalatin or something like that.
Rintero, I think his name was Rintero,
okay.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah. I have no qualms that he won't take him out entirely, and I'm curious why Voss just couldn't do it himself. Like, maybe there's a story there. I don't know, actually. Maybe I'm just blankly getting rid of this guy. Maybe there's a story there.
They mentioned him as Boss Rintero, so it almost seemed like it was Dryden Voss's boss.
Yeah.
And because I remember Maul looks at him and says, "Oh, I'm proud of you," or something like that. For like, "Oh, you're going to go after your boss and you're going to use me to do it. I'm proud of you." It's great.
He's like, he finally stood up and did something for himself.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we'll know that Maul is like eventually will become his superior, and it's like, oh, hey, like I am installing you here, but don't forget, you actually serve me, and then that's how it leads up to where we eventually see him in Solo, which would make sense entirely.
I mean, isn't he always in those circles? I just admire anybody that feels they can stand up to him, because I mean, you have this guy, like he's got to be the most powerful one in the room all the time. Aren't you just going to do what he tells you to do? He's got this laser sword on his hip ready to use. He doesn't even need to use it. He could just, sort of pinch his fingers together and close your esophagus. Right.
I think it's so interesting that like, I'm just now thinking of like, oh, well, obviously we know what happens to Devon with this at the end of the episode here. And like, is she on, like, when we see him in Solo and he's like, come to Dathomir, right? I'm like, is Devon also there too? Like, there's so much to figure out here because of what happens, at least, or is introduced here.
Because I know the questions you're going to ask me, I'm not going to say too much about that, because I have some notes, I have some thoughts about exactly what you're saying. But that's my point, is like this whole little pocket of the galaxy is very, very rich for some mining. And, I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm most excited to see, are we going to get Kira at some point in this show? Because she's a phenomenal character. And who knows, maybe if we watch it and then go back to Solo, or somebody who hasn't seen Solo watches this and then sees Solo, the big twist at the end is not going to be as twisty, but still, like, I would love to see some Kira appearances or some introduction to that character, because she's awesome.
Yeah, we'll never have it as good as we did in 2018 in May when we saw Maul appear on screen again. Wow, what a great moment. What a great moment. I don't know for you, but like I was, unfortunately there wasn't too many people in the theater on that opening night experience for me. And I felt like I was the only one pointing at the screen being like, who would have expected this? Not me, because, to be honest, I was like, this is an incredible moment for fandom, because, you'd experienced so many people, or at least I have, that have been like, oh, animation doesn't matter. Like, I don't need to watch that. None of that's ever going to impact the movies. I'm not wasting my time. And then as soon as that Maul appeared, and then everyone was kind of like, huh? I'm like, you haven't seen season 5 of the Clone Wars. You have homework to do. He matters. All of this matters. It's all connected. You can't forget about any of it here. And I felt vindicated. Did you feel vindicated, Colby?
Absolutely. I mean, and my Star Wars nerd just like pumped up the muscles even bigger, because I remember seeing the chatter about, wait a minute, so when does this take place? Because didn't he die already? like you said, Anthony. No and yes, but also no. But here's where you can find out about that and why he's still around. That's great. Yeah. But what like you said, what a moment. I remember just, I love those kinds of moments where storytellers will just, hook us, and it just gets that hook right there into our mouth, and is just reeling us in. And I remember my jaw dropping. And I can't tell you beat for beat how it was. I just remember the camera sort of panning around with Kira, and I think we saw like maybe his leg first. And then I remember thinking like, that's sort of like a robot metallic boot leg kind of thing. Hold on. And of course, Star Wars is playing with us, and we know it's going to be somebody. And here we are just going through our files in our brains. Who could this be? Who could this be? But then, I think you hear the lightsaber ignite, you see that it's red, and the camera pulls back. If I'm remembering correctly, that's how I remember it anyway. And then you see this sort of hologrammy like look at Maul and go and just like, yes. Oh gosh. Oh, just what a moment.
And it's wild to think of how close Han and Maul almost came to interacting with each other. Like the degree of separation is one.
And think about how much work goes into planning something like that. Like you have to have, I would imagine, a whole department of people scouring Pablo Hidalgo's journals of the wills and being like, hold on a second. Can we do this? Does this make sense? Will it fit in the timeline? What have we already said? What do we already have planned to say in the future? Right. It's, I really admire, and something I share with like the Marvel and Star Wars was the original, in my opinion, like this long form, massive universe storytelling is, I just love and admire the work and the creativity that goes into it from hundreds, if not thousands, honestly, of people.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, you're right. What was going on in Pablo's Rolodex for the couple of years leading up to this, that they were like, yeah, we can bring Maul into this. This makes sense. And then laying that seed that eventually leads to where we're at today. Right. Like, and then figuring out where that story beats lined up. And then we get this great story that we're with here today. And I want to transition us to the big reveal right now. So folks, we've talked spoilers already, but if you really haven't seen these episodes yet, I've given you enough outs at this point. This is where we break down the big thing, the big Mac Daddy of it all. And speaking of Daddy, we got Daddy Vader included in this story. Now, Colby, did you at all suspect that he was the one that Merrick contacted in previous episodes?
So, as I've said, I go for the ride on the roller coaster. I really exist in the moment of these stories. My oldest son, Caleb, is really good at seeing things before they happen. I am not. He did not get that skill from me. And it really makes it fun when you have these kinds of things, because I didn't clock that until I didn't even have the idea until Rook Cast got pulled into the fog when she came back from the scouting and said something is out there, and then she gets pulled back into the fog. And it wasn't even because there's a little bit of a beat there, right, where you don't know, you see her being pulled, but then I listened to it. I rewatched the episode and I heard it. I put it in my noise canceling headphones. There's a crunch, Anthony, when she gets pulled into the fog. Yeah. There's a crunch. And then you don't hear his breathing yet, but I think you heard something. I can't remember. I can't put my finger on it.
I think it was some footsteps.
Put that idea in my head, like, is Vader here? Is Vader here? And then you hear, it's just long enough to have that thought, and then you hear the breathing. So literally, it didn't occur to me that it could be him until Rook got pulled into the fog like that. But I will say that upon a rewatch, when I did see it again, of course, knowing what I already know, when the 11th brother calls that in and says, tell him they're headed in his direction or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how did I miss this? It's so glaring. It was so glaring. But I'm so glad that I didn't, because it made that reveal just, because anytime we get Vader in any of these things, I just find it thrilling. Because Maul up to this point is the most powerful character on the show, right? Even though we have two Jedi, I would say he's more powerful because he doesn't have the things limiting him that they do. But now that game changed. That game changed real quick. And I don't know how far you want me to go into it, but I loved what the introduction to Vader did, specifically to Maul. So I'll leave it at that, because I think, I want to hear your thoughts, but we can get further into that. But I really love what this did to Maul as a character and in this story.
Well, I'm going to yes and you with everything there. And I will say, to be honest, I didn't think at all that Vader was the one that he was contacting, right? I felt like there was I believe that there was a hierarchy of, like, I don't think that Merrick has a direct line to Darth Vader. That didn't make sense to me. Like, or I also heard people speculating it was, Palpatine too, right? I'm like, that also doesn't track for me, So with that, it kind of caught me off guard to like, oh, they're actually doing this here. Like, all right, I'll roll with it. That's totally fine. And then, to see him in all his glory. And then throughout the episode, we just hear him breathing. And then, of course, the subsequent episode, The Dark Lord, I think is what it's titled. After this one, the true finale, is he doesn't say a word. What a foreboding presence that this incredible character has. They just assume he's the Sith Lord, right? There's not even, like, they don't even think like the Inquisitors really are anything up to snuff on that matter. He does the most Vader thing ever. And this is like year one Vader too. Like, this is like the youngest, arguably the youngest Vader we've ever seen in action in any sort of like movement sense. I know there's comics that do directly after the events of Revenge of the Sith kind of Vader storytelling and all that stuff, but for like major Vader storytelling here, like, this is prime time. Like, it's pretty much 25-year-old Anakin in the suit here, ready to rock and roll,
right?
Which I think is incredible. And I'm curious. Let's dive into this more. Like, what do you think that bringing Vader into the story does for Maul, and do you think that it was wise to have him brought into this tale?
I do think it was wise, and it's again what I referenced, what it does to Maul, because he was absolutely dumbfounded. He was not. So Maul is a character from what, post Phantom Menace and post Spider Legs, when we get sort of the return of some semblance of sanity in Maul, he is never caught unprepared. He's always he's that chess player, right? He's just moving the pieces, anticipating, and of course he's got that from Sidious, right? Because his master would have instilled some kind of lessons about that, I would imagine. And we see it, and we've seen it even in Rebels. So a story that happens in the future for his character, we've seen it in our past, but we've seen him, how he is as a manipulator and how prepared he is. And the moment he not just sees Vader, but then when they engage and they start to fight, there was that one moment where I think it's when he brings Vader brings the saber down, and he's sort of like just pushing Maul down, just pure brute force, and then Devon comes in and sort of saves or helps, and then he casts Devon aside, and then Maul's still there, and he looks at and he has this almost manic look on his face. "What are you?" he says. Brilliant. When have we ever seen Maul like that?
It's brilliant. He's at his weakest. Like he could knock out those Inquisitors if he really wanted to, I guess, if he was really trying. Like, they weren't as much of a formidable threat. And the only thing that compared to this would be Sidious. Like, the one thing he couldn't overcome. Yeah.
And he took Sidious on with his brother, right? With Savage.
Absolutely.
So here he is. He's got the Jedi to help. So it's essentially 3 against 1. But did you see how Vader just swatted him just early on? It's almost like he tapped his hip.
One-handing this thing too. He's not even really trying.
Completely under control. You see the Inquisitors, and they're doing all this acrobatics, and it's so much fun to watch. But then when you see these people are just trying, they're giving everything that they possibly can, using every skill, every tool in their toolbox, and he's just one-handing them away. And it's So that's why I enjoyed them bringing Vader in on this, and I don't think you want to play the Vader card too often, right? Because
sparingly.
But you want to play it when it makes sense, and this made sense to me. And I'm glad you brought it up, Anthony, about how he didn't say a word. Like, we all want to hear his voice, right? We all want to hear that. And we know that they can do it because we know how they created his voice in the Kenobi series.
Yep.
So we know that we have like a perpetual Vader voice out there that they can use at will. So they chose not to have him speak a word because in this sense, his actions were going to be what spoke for him.
Absolutely.
And he just completely disarms Maul in a way that we have never seen anybody do. And it was just thrilling to me.
And for the guy that's like, embrace fear, embrace fear, embrace fear, right? That Maul's preaching, right? He just cowardly feared, runs away from whatever, like the impact of Vader in this moment. Like it's so arguably so poetic in a way. Like he's like, oh, I've been replaced. I'm seeing my replacement in front of me here. Because I don't think, did Maul ever run into Dooku? I don't recall if that's like, at least it's not coming to mind as like a big moment in Clone Wars. Like I know Savage Opress did, right? And then that's like,
that's what I'm thinking
cast
of.
Out, and then that's how he's like, go find your brother. He's out there. And I don't think they ever had that moment of coming together, or at least facing off there. Because then we know Palpatine jumps in and is like, hey, you've been replaced. But then he's actually like, oh my gosh, I'm actually seeing like the replacement that's been groomed in front of me here. And it's so interesting in a poetic way as well, because so much of the story is about, I will get my revenge on Palpatine. And we saw it in the flashbacks. Like there's clearly some abuse there of how he was raised with Palpatine and like clearly meant to be cast aside. So it's a 180 in terms of the Anakin grooming experience, where he's literally like that kind, father, grandfather figure that Anakin's always been looking for. Because I don't know how quickly he knew that Anakin was going to be the next thing for him, or at least a part of the longer term plans. But he's like, hey, I'll start sowing those seeds right now. This Jedi, like this guy's strong in the Force. The Jedi already are kind of like, I don't know about him. I don't trust him. Maybe I'll play the long game here and see what happens. And obviously it works out for him here. But it's interesting that like they exist in opposite sides of the spectrum here, both being tutelaged by Palpatine, one being cast aside and one being, hey, I'm the new guy now, until he gets cast aside eventually too, because that's what they're trying to do with Luke later in Return of the Jedi. And I think the Vader inclusion is just so much more complex. Like, I think you're right. Like, we have to use Vader sparingly. Like, we just can't use them. One might even say it's fan service to just have them fight each other. Like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool to have Vader and Maul fight each other? Yeah. It'd be cool. It's like, it's a Battlefront idea, right? Like, you have those two characters fight, but it's like what's the why behind it,
Yeah.
And I'm curious because, like, I want to dissect into this further here once I explain my thesis here a little bit more, is the fact that, I think that there is something inherent about the relationship, like, because Maul, I think that Vader, I should say that Anakin maybe has at least knew that Maul was still around, right, from the Clone Wars. You probably heard that from Kenobi. I don't think they had a duel at all, or even saw each other, but he heard about the rumblings, I think, that he's still engaged and active and all that stuff. So folks, you can correct me on that one if I'm wrong there. But there's the double-edged sword here, which is like, oh, I can finally take out, like, I took out Dooku. I can now take out the other one here. That was my master. Like, I can truly prove my worth to him as, like, I'm the strongest of all of them here. So there's that aspect that makes this interesting. And there's the other aspect, which is the Kenobi side of this, which is, like, I'm sure Anakin heard so many times in the years that he was growing up of, like, oh, Kenobi's great victory. He defeated the Sith Lord there, and that kind of got the ball rolling here. And then when Maul comes back, right, he's like, oh, Kenobi, like, didn't actually have that victory there. It's kind of a hollow means of, like, okay, he beat him, but he's back now and he's striking his revenge out, and now he takes out Kenobi's girlfriend in a way, right? Duchess Satine, and he's wreaking havoc on all things Kenobi here. So he's like, hey, I can finally do the thing that Kenobi was never fully able to do and take him out. So that offers that opportunity there as well, which I think is really juicy. And the last one that I really, really think is a awesome plausibility here is there, if there's some little part of Anakin that's still in Vader at this moment in time, that's like, this guy took out Qui-Gon. And like, he is the reason for everything here. Like it all starts here in the Phantom Menace when he kills him, and then because he killed him, Obi-Wan in a dying death wish was like, "Hey, take him as a Padawan," and that's where all my problems started here, is because of this man. So maybe he's channeling that, like, "Hey, this guy is like the bane of my existence and the cause of all my problems. If I get rid of him, then I'll be cured," which we know doesn't happen, and he still has that feeling for Kenobi too. But yeah, there's so much meat on this bone. What do you think about any of that there, Colby?
I think that you're brilliant. That's it.
End of podcast. Yeah. We're done. That's it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I love all those ideas, and you really stopped me right in my tracks when you talked about if there's any Anakin still left in there, and him connecting this person that's in front of him to Qui-Gon. And I love pondering on the Anakin versus Vader. How's that living room in their head, right? How does that work? Yeah, because we know what he says to Kenobi in the Kenobi series, which is later than this, right? At this point, where you didn't fail me, or you didn't fail Anakin. I killed Anakin. That I think that you can attribute that to being an unreliable narrator. He's lying. I think Anakin's stuff at least is still in there. We obviously know he comes back, and when he's in Return of the Jedi, we'll just leave it at that. and so yes, like I'm just rambling here to say yes. Like I do know. I really think that he knows. This is the guy that killed Qui-Gon, and your face is just adding to my hate fire, right? And yet he's still so controlled. Like, how crazy is that? He's still so controlled. But I love that idea, and you also made me think about the master explanation from Dave Filoni on one of the gallery episodes, the Mandalorian season 1. Yeah. He talks about the duel of the fates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. This is the duel of the fates. Like right here, this is another perspective on the duel of the fates. Like this individual, Maul, was used, and Maul knows this because he says it to Ahsoka when they're going face to face in the Siege of Mandalore. He knows what Skywalker was being used for. And you remember, because Ahsoka says to bring balance to the Force, and he says no, for destruction or something like that, or to fall, right? So he knows that he served a purpose in that plan, and he knows that he was a pawn in that plan, and yet he carried out his duty, right? And now he has suffered the consequences over the last, however many years that is, 10 years, 15 years, to where he's at now, and all the suffering he has made. I think he spent like 10 years on that trash planet, just
at
trying
least.
to.
Well, yeah, it had to have been probably 12.
Yeah,
12?
something around those. Yeah. So this individual has suffered because of the role that he played in this person's life now that is standing in front of him, trying to put a red lightsaber through him. But I'll end my thought on this. I would just like to know if they have matching "I hate Kenobi" tattoos and where they might be. Limited space on Anakin, limited space obviously on Vader.
Yes, it's on the back of his head. We don't really see it in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. If they would just sit and talk for a second, maybe they could bond over their mutual hatred of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And then Maul gets his into like the black part of his skin, so like he can't really see it.
Yeah.
So it's there.
Exactly. It's got like the black light ink. You need to have a specific light.
That's right.
To be able
it glows
to see
in the dark. It's a really special. They're best friends now. They got friendship bracelets and all that. Just I hate Palpatine.
I think a TikToker needs to go out there and make have you seen that account where they do like the guy like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are sitting there on a couch?
I have, yes.
And like, you see that guy, he should do this. He should have like a Vader and a Maul, like just a rage
laying
sesh.
it out. Yeah. Kenobi. Yep, they're all just the bane of my existence kind of deal. And speaking of tragedies here, the final set of episodes features the deaths of several characters, including, but not limited to, Rook Cast and Iko Diodaki. How did seeing those deaths make you feel? And I know there's also Spybot that I'm missing too. And it's a really sad one, actually. So go ahead, tell us what your thoughts.
I don't know what this says about me, but I felt it more when Spybot got hacked in half.
When he's like master.
He's like, yeah, he's a master. And then did you see how Maul reacted?
He didn't like that too.
It's off the chain. He's just zoomed into rage mode.
Cast, he didn't care at all. He didn't care at all.
No. It's just like, oh, lost another Mandalorian. By that time, I think they had lost like 2. I feel bad. I want more Vanessa Marshall. I want her to be able to voice more characters. So hopefully they can give her another character because she did a phenomenal job on this show with Rook. Honestly, when I saw the Mandalorians by his sides in the first episode, again, I had to dust off that Clone Wars file and be like, was she there? And she was, right? But I, another sort of if you're going to hang out with Maul, you're going to put yourself in these situations. So she knew what the risks were. I can say, again, not smart with these things, but I figured that we were going to lose Master Daki just because I assumed that at some point Devon would ally herself with Maul. So that was a necessary plot point to make that believable for me. But I mean, still powerful the way that happened. I mean, gosh, the animation, just thinking about just the close up on his face when he breathes his last breath and she sees that, and then the emotion that elicits from her, that was very powerful. But yeah, I mean, Spybot, we hardly knew ye. So
Spybot, yes. You had a long-lasting moment in the fandom and gone too soon. Maybe he comes back.
What a great design. I mean, he's just a droid. I mean, maybe there's some...
Maybe they stole the L3, right? They somehow got the like a memory chip out of him somehow and just put him in a ship, and then he just becomes a bigger droid vessel.
Well, he dropped into some toxic goo, so I'm pretty sure those circuits are fried.
He had a backup. Maul was very smart and had a backup somewhere.
on a
just
thumb
in
drive.
Case. He can't let his buddy go, and he needed him. He needs him, and we need him as fans too. That's right.
The password for his Bushkadoo.
I think it was interesting that, like, for both Cast and Iko Diodaki, right, is how Maul is involved in both of them, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Maul with the Diodaki one as well. But in the fact that it's like he does not care, right, is an interesting thing about the Maul character. Is like there's a selfishness to all that, and there's more to explore with the selfishness too that I want to do in a minute.
Always.
Here. But like Rook Cast has been like his biggest champion, and to like not even think about it, feel about it, have any reaction at all other than fear, because obviously his Vader is right around the corner with that one. But to not even like, no, Rook, what? Nothing. He's stoic. He's automatically withdrawn and thinks insularly about himself and his grand plan later on.
Yep.
So we'll dive into that in a second here. But there's also a brief moment where, not a brief moment, but we kind of lose Lawson in this episode here. So do you think, I mean, that's the question of, we see him kind of go into the cloud. Is he gone? What do you think on that one?
I think this is such a good question. I really do, because on first viewing, I completely bought in that he was gone, and it was very. I think I felt that one the most. Being a dad and having my boys, and then seeing, the last words he says to his son is "I love you," which is a big deal, right? And he charges 2 boots with his son's care to get him to his mother, and then before that he apologizes, for the shortcomings that he felt he had. And I also like sort of going further back when they had a moment on the skiff where again he was like, I'm sorry that you've gotten into this, and that I haven't been there for you. And I was grateful to see. I'm a big proponent for when you have things to say, you should say them, right?
Yeah. Don't wait.
it's healthy. It's healthy. And I love that they modeled that for us. And then knowing what he was about to do, he said what is most important to his son. And so when he walked into that fog and you saw all those blaster bolts just everywhere, the first viewing was just, I was bought in like, oh my gosh, we just lost Lawson. And that's a bold move because he was a great character. Great character. And the voice actor did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And we saw what it did to Riley in the aftermath, and he's just sobbing openly. But then I read your question, and then I watched the episode again. And I think you inceptioned me, Anthony. I think you inceptioned me to find the hope that maybe, because you never see him fatally get, like he gets shot. Like you see him get shot, and then he picks up the gun, he starts going with his own blaster because that big gun was out of blaster bolts. And he walks into the fog, but you never really see a fatal shot. So could he be a prisoner of the Empire? I'm just saying that it's possible.
Over there too.
And you brought hope into my life because I had mourned him, and now I get to put a question mark behind that. So
that's right. Ahsoka lives.
Lawson lives. Hashtag Lawson lives.
That'll be at Celebration 27, folks. Is the Lawson Lives meetup.
Start it now. Start it now.
Well, I mean, I think he's. I mean, obviously, the animation. Well, they didn't show us where Cass died, but I'm pretty sure we heard a pretty good crunch there. I didn't hear a crunch with this one, and that's where
there's no crunch.
Potentially, I'm like, okay, there's that. I think he's a big enough character like Diodaki that they would have showed a formal end to the character. And there's also that added tidbit. I don't know if you caught this, Colby, but he's the only one that sees that Maul abandons Iko Diodaki.
It's true.
So, thinking of seeds that they're laying down for the future, potentially, if that's going to come up again, there's only one person that can tell it. Because that might be the way that Devon is like, hey, you're a lion snake. Like, you manipulated me. And if Lawson's like, hey, your master kicked your old master into Vader and then ran away like a coward. Like everything that you've known is a lie because of him. Even though Diodaki was like, hey, we can take him out together. He's willing to put aside the bygones of Sith and Jedi and just be two people trying to survive. Like Maul was trying to preach. And then when push comes to shove, he's like, oh, no, see ya. I'm going to live another day. And you'll be the bait. And Lawson, he's got to tell that tale. He's got to. I mean, whether it's a season 2, season 3 kind of thing, season 4 or 5, who knows how long we're going with this thing. It's got to come up at some point. Like they just animate that for no reason. I got to believe, Colby, he's coming back.
I love it. I love this. You are giving me more hope now. And to say that I have to see this is an understatement, and I need to see it like you said, season 7.
At some point down the line.
Draw this out as long as possible because that is rich. That is so rich. And you're right. I caught on to the fact that he did see that. And I even noticed, like, it was on the second viewing where I'm just like, oh, I didn't realize he was so close to them at that point. But you're right. They did. They made a point to show you, like, oh, he saw them there and that. So yeah, you're correct. I think we'll get into this a little bit, but I won't go too deep on it. But I, in general, don't really enjoy stories about villains succeeding, nor do I enjoy stories about good people, especially young people, deciding to do bad things or wrong things or being manipulated into that. Those don't really resonate with me. There was so much more to this than that, but you have now given me something really to chew on about not just Devon's decision to say she's ready, but the future decision to ultimately make the right choice. So that's very cool. That's very cool. So thank you.
We're already laying the path for redemption, but let's talk about the bad choice here, which is, the death of Daki is the ultimate catalyst for Devon to join Maul's quest. That's how this episode of the finale ends, is her saying, I'm ready, let's do it. what, you've already kind of alluded to this, but what do you make of her choice, and like, what do you think about Maul's like teaching style, or what it will entail so far?
Lots of rage bait. And look, I was segueing before I even knew you needed a segue. Look at that. We're just naturals at this, Anthony. You're doing a great job.
We are podcasters. That's how we do it.
We know what we're doing. Again, like I at the risk of repeating myself, I don't, these kinds of stories don't typically resonate with me, but because of the history we have with Maul, and we know he's just desperate always to have an apprentice, which I think is really, really interesting. We see the whole thing with him and Ezra, and it's never like to really like, why is he so desperate always to have apprentices? Like, he's not, of course, like you mentioned, everything he does is self-serving. It's motivated by what's he going to get out of this, but really, what is he more protection? Like, what is he is motivated a lot by revenge, especially towards Palpatine or Sidious. But I think Vader's appearance probably shows him like, that's not gonna be so easy. So maybe I switch a little bit and go towards the crime boss
stuff more. Yeah.
Yeah. But to circle back to Devon, I think that they made this story make a lot of sense, why she would ultimately make this decision. And of course, seeing your master murdered by a Sith is going to do things to you. But that wasn't just it, that they built towards this. We saw she was not satisfied in the beginning. Episode 1, there's already conflict there, right? She gets arrested because she does something that her master told her she shouldn't do. She's not satisfied with their life. She had enough of that taste of that Jedi life to continue to want to do that. And they're not doing that anymore. They're just surviving. And she doesn't want to just survive and hide. She wants to continue to do what the Jedi taught her to do, which is to help and make a difference. And there's a conflict there between her and Master Daki, right? So we see that already, and then Maul exploits that, right? In the early episode, he's just really exploiting all of that because he knows. But and then he protects her. Right. Then he sort of saves the day on the train, which was just a phenomenal fight, by the way. The visuals on that train were incredible. And then you add the Empire into it and the suffocation that they have brought. And then that is sort of like embodied by Vader. So all of this has been sort of personified and singularized, if that's a word, into the person that just murdered her master. And now she's got this other person here that is willing to listen. He's surprisingly nurturing in many ways, which was very offsetting, right? It was very unnerving to see him being like patient and kind and listening, so manipulative. Oh my gosh. So now he's been offering her this alternative this whole time, and now she's ready to take that alternative because she, number one, doesn't have a lot of other alternatives, but now she wants this because I want to be given the tools to go out and accomplish what I have been wanting to do. And now that has changed into like, I'm going to avenge my master. So I think it's a very wonderfully constructed story, and it's not just we're going to make her fall, right? This is I think very, very well written and earned. That word comes up a lot in my vocabulary. Did you earn this? And I feel like they did. I feel like they earned this throughout this season. So does redemption lie on the other side, or are we going to see a full-blown Darth Talon, which we know is floating around the Lucasfilm archives in Dave Filoni notes?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. But I think poor Devon, because she's now going to see, I think, a side of Maul that she probably didn't know was there.
Yeah. I mean, they'll have some growing pains, I imagine, in the learning, because also this is seemingly, aside from Savage a bit, Maul's first time like teaching.
Good point. Yeah.
How will he handle that? I don't know. He seemed fine with the tea and all that stuff, but it's so much easier to lure somebody. Like, I feel like the seduction is easier. I guess that's my take on it. Is like, it's so much easier to like give somebody. So ultimately, what I've understood of the dark side, especially Palpatine, and the way it's always constructed, is that it's fascism, it's authoritarianism at large, right? It's someone giving you simple solutions to complex problems, right? Maul is doing that here. Hey, take what you want. This cell, you could have escaped any point in time. I'm not holding you here. You want some tea? Here you go. Take it. You want that food? You should have taken it. That's yours. Your master is holding you back, right? You have much more potential. Buttering her up, doing all that, and then saying, hey, we can, you feel powerless. And that's ultimately, I think, where a lot of this rage comes from for her, right? Like, I was promised a life of helping people in the galaxy and serving, and that was ripped away from me by people that were, destroying the world around me. Like, everything I fought for was a lie. The whole galaxy is built on lies. Like, what do I have left after this? And now I'm a rat running through the cellars, depending on kindness in small places to even survive, right? And most of the galaxy wants me dead. So that powerlessness is what makes a lot of people turn to cruelness out of that. It turns them into villains. It turns them into rage-filled monsters. And frankly, it seems like Daki was like that last bit of like consciousness of morality that she had, and then seeing that go, hey, broke the string there, where it was hanging on by a thread. Yep, and it snapped in half. Vader did it, and now all my pain and hatred can really come out. But you're already seeing, like I was saying earlier too, like just harking back to that point of like simple solutions to complex problems. Like they give you that little like chocolate, that's something sweet, right? They dangle it in front of you, and then they keep moving it back. Maul's already doing that to her, right? He's like, you are unleash your rage. That's the only way we can defeat them, right? And then she's like, at the end, hey, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And he's like, no, you're not powerful yet. Like, he's already, she was powerful enough 10 minutes ago and not anymore now. Like, just because she said, yes, I'm good to go. All right, don't need you anymore. Like, you serve me. You serve my purposes. This isn't about us mutually advantaging a symbiotic relationship where I am building you up and I'm excited to see you grow and go beyond and do all that. No, you are going to serve my purpose here.
Yep.
And then I'm going to cast you aside as soon as I feel threatened by you. And that's the nature of the dark side. And that's terrifying. And I'm sad that Devon now is a part of this cycle. Like, just keeps going and going and going. Like, brings in so many people into that midst and then turns them out as whatever is left at the end. And it's sad. It's tragedy. And it's at the greatest level.
Absolutely. I no notes. Like, absolutely no notes. The two quick things I would add, I guess I do have notes, is there's a scene right after Daki dies that Maul and Devon are together, and he lets her run off down the stairs to where Vader is. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if you want her as an apprentice, why are you letting her run towards the person that's going to slice her in half? Like, you just told her, or maybe it was before, I can't remember the timing of it, but anyway, he let her run towards, like, down away from him and towards Vader. And then I thought to myself, no, of course he would do that.
Yeah.
Because he wants to put her, because then he saves her, because Vader is, just bringing the lightsaber down. Yeah. And then he steps in and gets her out of that situation. So he's just a manipulator. The last thing, and just real quick, just what you were saying made me think of one of my favorite Star Wars quotes, really. It comes from Padme Amidala when she says in episode 3, this war represents a failure to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
And really that's representative of what you're saying and what George Lucas has always said about the dark side versus the light, and how the dark side is rooted in selfishness, but it's also, it represents the easy way out, right? Just cutting to the chase.
Yes.
Just bypassing all the things that should be considered and mastered, and just going to the end where you just give up to your rage and your anger, and it empowers you in a way that you would not be empowered in other ways. That's just a quick, easy, selfish solution, right? And it also represents a failure to listen. If listening is hard. Listening to what people have to say, finding common ground is difficult. It takes a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
Not listening and just cutting to the chase and going towards your anger and letting that determine things, that is selfish and that is quick and that is easy. So anytime I get to drop that line, I like to, because I love what it represents to the Star Wars canon as a whole.
As you should, and it's brilliant too. And it's one of those underappreciated lines, I think, in Star Wars. And I would
As
add
is
to it,
Amidala.
too. As is Amidala, of course. And I even think in the crawl, right? Heroes on both sides, right? This is a war of, people being led into lies, all of it, right? And that's just war in general, right?
Yeah.
Every
exactly.
side is playing for whatever reason that they are, and just death is the ultimate result. It's bad, it's black, it's terrible, it's incomprehensible. And now Devon's just a part of this sad cycle. It's tragedy, and we'll see it play out in season 2 here. But before we get into that, we spent a lot of time with Maul in this season over the course of 10 episodes, probably more time than we have ever spent with the character over the course of Clone Wars, Solo, even Rebels too. What did you learn about Maul as a result of this season that you maybe did not know before, or confirmed because of this season?
I'll save the more interesting thing for last, but I was interested to see that at this point in his existence, he seems to be much more motivated by revenge than he is fixated on Kenobi. I'm sure that there's a hatred for Kenobi, and we already saw that stuff play out in the Clone Wars, but he somehow gets back to that in Rebels, right? Like he somehow becomes singularly focused on finding Kenobi and righting what he perceives as the wrong that was done to him. But he's not there in this show. He is, he's doing other things, much more revenge focused. Of course, we mentioned just his selfishness and his singular focus on what he wants and what he desires, and that is what is pushing him in the directions that he's in. The thing that I found quite interesting was the sort of the self-reflection that we got to see him go through in that windstorm after when he was really injured and he was just sort of running from those two Inquisitors. Those flashbacks. The flashbacks that we got to see him, it was nice for us to see, because it's not a lot of it was a part of a story we haven't seen yet about his history. I mean, we saw the Savage stuff, but I was sort of surprised that he had the capacity to reflect, that he actually sat there for a moment and looked back. That is not a selfish thing, right? That adds a depth to him that I didn't know was there and didn't know that existed and hadn't seen, frankly. So I thought that was really, really telling. We know how he ends. We know the story. We know how it goes, but we don't know how he gets there. So how does his past, as you mentioned, the abuse that he suffered at the hands of Sidious, how do these things play into where we find him on Malachor? Honestly, that's like, I think, no, I'm gonna save that comment because I know what our next question is.
Ooh, okay, great. It's interesting. I wonder if I don't think he knows that Kenobi's alive at this point. Like, I think when he has that moment in Rebels, he's like, he's alive. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, wow. And then that like triggers that like moment in it, like that thing that's in his brain that like unlocks like the Kenobi hate. Everything in my life is because of him. I'm gonna channel all my rage. I maybe can't get to Palpatine, but I can get to him. I can take him out. That old kook wherever he's at. Like, yeah, it's interesting, and I absolutely loved what you were saying about like it shows an emotional depth that we've never seen from Maul before. That just adds to like this hypocrisy of him in some way, right? Like if you're able to reflect and feel bad and be like, yeah, like, he looking at himself in the mirror and being like, I'm not going to let what happened to you happen to others. And then he ends up arguably he potentially is on the path of doing it to Devon.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's just the nature of the dark side. They never have the rule of two is bad because you're going to eventually one up each other or get jealous or threatened and all that. Like, it's just the nature of how it is. Right. It's an unnatural thing to be so involved in dark side mentality, right? Even though it's a part of all of us, right? It's like that balance. You got to have some balance. And it's fascinating that whole sequence is just a treasure trove. It's literally a treasure cave, I guess, of sorts, and a very astute observation by you on those fronts there. I think for me, I want to circle back to the thought that like the beginning where I was like, hey, this show made me concerned that there would be maybe people get the wrong analysis from this, and I'm sure, again, like I was saying at the beginning, there will be people that will take the wrong lesson from this entirely. And partially towards the end of the season, I was like, I hope they really get around to like addressing that a bit more, because so far you hadn't really seen Maul do anything that wasn't egregious, right? We know the terrors he's done. He's like, you call me a murderer, you don't know who I am, kind of deal. That seduction that he's done. Find out who I am, and maybe you can make your own judgment for yourself, is basically what he's telling to Devon. But Devon doesn't see his actions that lead to the death of Daki, right? Daki's willing to put down all bygones, like I was saying earlier. He's like, hey, we can take him out together. Like, I'm willing to, we can be allies in this moment in time. And then Maul's like, nope, see an opportunity. Bye. I am going to push you in there, Devon. It all just comes back to the idea of the dark side is selfish. It is lonely. You are left in agony, and seeking out revenge is not a healthy quality in any person, right? And he's already flailing on his promises to Devon, as we're already seeing here. It's a cyclical cycle of sadness, tragedy, and depression. That is the dark side. And it's ultimately going to leave Maul sad and alone on Malachor. It's going to leave him sad and alone when he's dying in Obi-Wan's arms, right? Trying to take out the one thing that he thinks is the bane of his existence. He's trying to take out the bane of his existence now, which is Palpatine. He's like, I cast you aside. And that's the only thing he can focus on, is that. He can't see that, hey, I have a team. I've assembled a team. Rook Cass is like my number two. We have loyalty to each other. And then she died, and he doesn't care. All of the mercenaries that he had around him, that to some degree are like remnants of Death Watch and probably some other conglomerates that he's had. And he's like, I don't mind. Die. Like, I'll have nothing. And he's left with nothing at that point. And yeah, it just confirms that that's just exactly what the dark side is. And for anybody that seeks to glorify it or raise it up in higher esteem, like it's weak. For all the power that they exhibit, there's a weakness in that. And it's like, ooh, that's what you're gonna do, buddy? Like that was my immediate reaction to with the whole like, oh, Daki's there and you're gonna let him die kind of deal. I was like, oh, wow, what a weak man. Like, you're in front of them. Like, you could take out Vader, the most powerful being. You could take out the number two if you work together. But choosing to be alone, he chooses to be alone, and he thinks he's not going to be alone. But eventually, we know as fans, like, it makes those moments even more juicier later on, where he is alone. And it's like, all right, what happens to Devon? Like, does she find out? Is she like the one that like drops him off on Malachor, and he's like, bye, see ya. You wronged me way too many times now. Like there's a lot of opportunities to explore that even further, and I hope that they do. But yeah, I just confirmed that just Maul is a pathetic character to me, which I think George would say too, right? All these dark side characters, George would say, are pathetic. Like to take life the way that they do, to be power hungry, to just keep grabbing and taking and not giving back, is exactly the definition I think he would say of a pathetic, weak person.
I'm so impressed just how well you communicate how strongly you feel about this, because this is, I mean, and being earnest here, this is the point, right? This is the point of this, of why George Lucas constructed the Force the way that he constructed it, right? And you made me think back to Yoda when he's talking to Luke in Empire Strikes Back, and he says that quicker, easier, more seductive. Seductive. That's the word, right? That Maul is continually seduced by the power that the dark side gives him, and he's continually seducing others to fall in line with his belief system. And he refuses to see, and we've seen it already 3 times at least, what condition that leaves him in, right? Cut in half, surviving on trash. Now he's completely alone. He's lost his crew, but he's got his apprentice, and then found by himself alone on Malachor. Again, alone, repeatedly, alone. And that's because of that quicker, easier, more seductive dark side. So bravo. I love what you said.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say for this next one here, which is my last question, which is looking ahead towards season 2. What are you most looking forward to? And do you have any speculation at this point?
I'm always interested to see who else we're going to see. Like, I was surprised by Vader, right? I was surprised by Vader. But it made sense. Do we see Vader again? If it makes sense, then fine. Now maybe we don't need to. But that's just sort of like the chewing gum, right? The bubble gum, like, who are we going to see?
Yeah.
They have just such a vast treasure trove of characters that exist in this time frame that could make an appearance. The one that I'm really interested to see, I already talked about, is Kira, because we know that their paths cross somehow, some way, sometime, and I'm interested to see if they explore that at all. I'm also really interested to see if we continue to learn anything or follow Riley. I think Riley was not really involved much halfway through, but the second half of the season, he was right there pretty much in every scene, and he thinks at least he's lost his father. And will we? I think he's a very interesting character. Clearly, I'm invested in Devon. Like, I want to see where this goes, right? And Maul is always fascinating. Whenever he's on the screen, whatever we learn about him, just the things that we've been talking about tonight, are just right there, ready for a season 2. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to see where the Dryden Voss Crimson Dawn storyline goes. How much do we get to see of that, or is it something where we're just going to skip ahead and it's already established, and are we going to go past Solo? Are we going to go past his appearance in Solo, or are we going to lead up to it? I was really interested to see how they play with the timeline there. Not a ton of speculation, because I typically, I'm not smart enough for that. Honestly, I can't come up with interesting things. So honestly, it's what I've always been, and I don't know if a story out there exists, because I know they do a lot of things in like comics and whatnot. And I think there's a Maul novel. Isn't there a novel out there that has to do with Maul? I don't know if there is, and if
there's comics, there's for sure. There's a couple of comics.
I don't know what if this has already been covered, but I'm just very interested to see like what leads him to Malachor. Why does he end up on Malachor? And are we going to get any? I know that's a ways in the future. That's a ways out there. But hey, give me 10 seasons of this show. I don't care. I'll send 7, 8.
They're not going anywhere.
So yeah, I'm just interested to see how he ends up on this Sith planet, and we're very far away from that, but I would love to see if we're ever going to get anything like that. So how about you?
Yeah, sign me up for all that. And I think it will depend entirely on what do they do a time jump? Is it immediately they go take out Dryden Voss's boss, and is that where season 2 starts? And then we have the entire season of kind of like a Sith training class that we're trying to get in the Acolyte a little bit there, and then never really came to fruition. Maybe we see that. Maybe it's 5 years in the future, and they're already established, and we're seeing like Crimson Dawn just operating and all that stuff, and it has that Solo overlap, and we see the scene from a different angle, kind of deal, and that's how Kira comes in. Like, definitely an avenue for that. And then I hope eventually down the line, like I'll say like they have no. Like, there's nothing holding them back here. Like, they could do 10 seasons of Maul Shadowlord. They could do 3 seasons of Maul Shadowlord, stop it, and then do a second show called Maul Post Solo, whatever you want to call it, right? And then do the lead up to Malachor, right? Like, there's nothing saying that we can't do all this, and if the titles matter, and maybe they will because of legal reasons, or like because they don't want to pay people, maybe that's kind of how they'll do this thing here. So I don't know. But ultimately, I if I'm speculating, I want to see the training. I want to see how what Maul does. Like, does he do the Sidious route? Does he try to do another way? I think dark side training will just be fascinating. We've seen so much of the Jedi training throughout various forms of canon and media over the last couple of years here. So, let's see what some of those Sith traditions are like and codify those in some way. And I would be actually interested, if I'm going out on a limb here, I would love to see some Grand Inquisitor come in there and maybe try and divert Devon to be a member of the Inquisitors. Like maybe he gets a little bit of the detail of how she came to be in Maul's training. He sees the rage, the anger, and he's like, "Hey, we can do better over here." And they're like, "Hey, like Vader just did what he was trying to do. Like, you're maybe he finds out from a now alive and under custody Lawson that that's how Diodaki died is because of that, because of Maul. Like maybe he throws that leaf onto the fire, and it just starts this whole branch of ignition, and that's like the push pull of Devon on multiple sides of the dark side. It would be interesting. And I don't know. That's the thing is like, where do we go with this? We'll find out pretty much sooner than later. I gotta imagine. At the very least, Celebration next year will have some strong sense as to where this is going, if we don't already have episodes by that point already.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and they do tend to, because Andor was released in the April, May of last year, and now we have Maul in April, May of this year. So I would assume that there's going to be some kind of a Disney Plus animation or live action show that's going to be dropping in and around Celebration of next year. So
yeah,
because 1st of April, right? First weekend of April. So it'd be interesting to see if it's another season of Maul. I'd be all for it. That would be wonderful. A nice treat.
It would be a nice treat indeed, and a great way to segue from like the 50th anniversary re-release in theaters of New Hope, and then to Starfighter later in May as well. So it'd be a great couple of months there of just fun Star Wars that we're just experiencing as fans in a fandom together. It'd be great. Well, Colby, we have chatted all things Maul, Shadow Lord. We've gone to all the depths and analysis of his character. But I know you do a podcast where you do a lot of fun analysis as well with your boys. Tell us about the ColbyCast. What are you doing lately over there, and how can the folks find you if they want to continue the conversation?
Anthony, I appreciate you inviting me. I always love our conversations, and I thank you also for giving me an opportunity to talk about the ColbyCast. My boys are in their 20s, their mid-20s, and somehow they still agree to talk to me on a weekly basis, and we record it, and we put it out there for people to enjoy our conversations. We talk about movies, TV, sports, music. We make fun lists. They like to try to make me seem silly while we talk, and I love that. We have a fun time when we're not talking about Star Wars shows or Star Wars movies. We talk about any old movies. Honestly, we will pick a movie, and I love to see what they choose, what they come up with. And we've been doing that for a couple months now. And then when we have something that we all want to watch at once, like we talked about the Game of Thrones spinoff, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, we don't really do episode recaps like we had been just because of scheduling. And so once we're all to a place where we can talk about a sort of a subset of episodes, we'll do a big chunk of episodes, and then we'll talk about movies and stuff like that too. So we have fun. We like to keep it light. We like to make people laugh. And that's really the core of the ColbyCast is to come listen to us. It's like you're sitting on the couch with us and we're having a fun conversation, hoping you are walking away from it with a smile on your face.
I love it. And that's the goal. And I think you guys accomplished that. I listened to many an episode, and it's always a blast to hear all that you do over there. And folks,
thank you.
Thank you for listening and for joining along on the Maul Shadow Lord journey. And guess what? It's time to transition now from Maul to Mandalorian and Grogu. We're heading straight forward ahead into the theatrical experience, and I can't wait to see Star Wars on the big screen again. So guess what? Next week, we're starting that transition. We're going to start prepping for Mando and Grogu. Where are they at right now? What's going to happen in the series? Be on the lookout for that episode in your podcast feeds in the near future. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.